Now, before moving to the modern ergonomics approach, we have certain generic tools which are important to be discussed. Are the first one is called as checklist, ergonomic checklist. Most of the places, if you find that there are certain checklists either for assessing the computer workstation or assessing a chair, assessing a workstation, normal workstation, packaging station, installing station, or assembly lines. So in all those cases, you might require a kind of assessment. And for the quick assessment, you cannot take all the equipments to the place and you can perform the objective analysis. Rather, you have to be quick in understanding the problem, which may be done by taking an interview or getting certain specific answers based on certain performers or certain checklists. Now, in generic tool kit or generic analysis, we have the basic checklist developed by Grandjean, and that is very widely covering the scope of ergonomics. And that checklist, we will go to the checklist later on, but before that, I want to share a small clip of brake working. We will see this operation where a worker is loading bricks on the cart. Horse cart is there, and you can watch the kind of involvement of the posture and the load and the frequency at which the worker is doing this particular job. So you see the repetition is quite high. You can see that how hard it is to perform throughout the day. But whatever he is doing, we have to watch it and we have to do the ergonomic assessment of the work so that we can understand the problem related to the posture, problem related to the frequency, problem related to the load. So there are many tasks like brake working, the task requiring very precise work where the mental load is quite high, posture is quite static. For example, the worker, the driver of the JCB or operator of the JCB who had to do a very precise work with very precise control in a very closed chamber. He is sitting and he is doing the job. So he had quite heavy load of working, quite a static posture of working, quite precise work, which is adding to the mental load. So all these kind of loads on the human could be assessed by what we say generic tools, and these generic tools are nothing but two basic things. One is ergonomic checklist. We can say the Bible checklist is given by Grandjean, and that checklist is covering most of the areas. Either it is work organization, it is a workplace design, it is a human limitations, it may be a task limitations, it may be other things. Now, then the second thing is task analysis. So task analysis is kind of splitting the whole task or the job into subtasks and their workflow, what we'll call flow charts. So over the flow chart, we can assess these things. I want to introduce you about the checklist, and that is covering most of the areas like job analysis, like we can say task analysis, we can say workplace analysis, work environment analysis, mental loads, work organization, workspace design, physical demands of the human body, how much he can be compatible with the workstation. There may be workforce characteristics analysis. There may be occupational background of the worker, whether he has a traditional system or the custom system. So these are 9-10 parameters on which the checklist is formed, which is covering most of the things. Ten points on which, if we analyze based on the guidelines given by Grandjean, it will be good enough to understand the basic problems or basic reasons for the stresses or discomforts in the workplace. So if we learn about objective methods later on, there are two types of methods in ergonomics assessment. One is called as subjective assessment and the other is called as objective assessment. For example, you are measuring the rickshaw puller's oxygen consumption or heart rate. So it is an objective assessment. How much oxygen he is intaking or exhaling or inhaling and how much heart rate is increased by doing a particular task. But if you go for subjective assessment, you can ask or you can see that the rickshaw puller is getting tired, not able to pull the task, or he wants to take a rest. These are all subjective assessments. So checklist is also goes in the category of subjective assessment because you are taking an interview or you want to get the answers of certain predefined questions. So this is just a basic line of the checklist which we are looking here given by Grandjean. But most of the ergonomists have designed different checklists and those checklists have been standardized for either it is for computer work or it is for manual work or it is for repetitive work or it is for kind of loading and unloading. So checklist or it is for vibration exposure, illumination exposure. So checklists are different, but this checklist covers most of the 10 areas, 10 all related interaction of human, machine and environment by 10 subsections. So first is job analysis, the main assignment and segment of the job, what task is given, is there a physical load, suppose the person was lifting bricks or having a bat, so there was some physical load, but the person is typing on the computer, so physical load was less, but the frequency was high. Is there a mental load? If there is a precise work like data entry, physical load may be less, but mental load will be very high because there are chances of error. Does the operator has high level of responsibility? The same thing, if you are entering the data which has to be very precise, then the level of responsibility will be very high. For example, the person is entering the financial data. The person is entering the data related to disease. What are the skill knowledge requirement of the job? So if it is a physical work, the skill requirement is different. If it is a mental work, physical requirement is different. For computer operator or data entry operator, the requirement is different. For manual tasks, the requirement is different. Second point is work organization. Whether the worker is doing alone, whether is the work machine self-paced or paced on the, for example, it is an assembly line. So assembly line on which the car is being manufactured can be self-paced assembly line or it may be manually paced or semi-self-paced. So the job is coming on a particular speed. It is stopped for a particular time period when the person do the work and it goes on with according to its time. But that is called as self-paced assembly line. But some assembly lines are not self-paced. They move when the operator or worker finishes its task. It allows to move on. So, what is the system of supervisor and accountability? What shift system is operating in day, night, evening, morning? What are the hours of the work and rest period? Whether there are micro rest or bigger rest? Is overtime work like in railways? Some of the workers are doing heavy overtime work. What are the arrangements for meal, refreshment? Is there time pressure due to deadline? So these are things which are related to the organization. So the first was for job design and the second was for the organization. So these are 2 points. Then the third point is workspace design. For example, if it is a standing task, if it is a standing task, then in that case, the requirement of the space is different. But if it is a sitting task, then the requirement of space will be different. So both the cases you require a different space. In this case, this is a kind of your work envelope. In this case, this is your kind of work envelope. So in which you can work. So the requirement is different for different postures. So can the worker sit while working at all? You can know that is there option available that on the assembly line, on the production workstation, or on like mm, lock making industry. When you go there, some workers are working in a standing position, some are working in sitting position, some changes their posture occasionally or intermittently to get rid of the static fatigue. Does the position of the body demands static muscular work? For example, you are a driver of heavy trucks, heavy machines which are being used in mines. So in mines, when you use those machines, you have to move for very long distances or on loading the ore from the earth to these loaders. In those cases, your static posture is for very long with the high demand of the work. So that is going to give you an accumulated fatigue in your body. Does the workspace permit a stable, neutral posture? Is the work surface appropriate for visual and manual requirement? For example, you are working in quality control, the requirement is different. Does the chair have backrest? Seated worker use footrest? So these are the things or points. Or is there vibration? So the person is standing on the floor on first or second, and the industry is so heavy that there are vibrations. For example, in sugar cane or in sugar factories, if you go there and the workers who are watching the crane or the lift which is throwing the sugar canes on the chain, that floors are vibrating due to the movement of the heavy chains over there. So the person is exposed to vibration. So these are most of the points which may be asked if you are evaluating the workspace. Then physical demand. For example, pulling task, pulling a trolley, pushing a trolley, or loading, unloading a truck or wagon. These are tasks which you can see either in agriculture industry or cement factory or in cargo trains or cargo airplanes. You can see these kind of manual handling tasks or in warehouse of any department store. So you can see these kind of activities which have to be assessed based on the physical demand. Is the manual handling required, or by forklift or cranes or overhead lifts, etc. are there? Do large forces have to be exerted? For example, you are cutting paper, less force is required. But when you are cutting a metal sheet of 18 gauge or 20 gauge GI sheets, and you have to cut it like you had done in the workshop in Smiti, then you have to exert more force. Or you are working in a Smiti shop, you have to exert more force. Does the work involve lifting, twisting, bending, stooping, or reaching? Even on the assembly line, even on the production line, when the packed goods comes, you have to shift it to the pallet. When you are shifting to the pallet, or from the pallet you are loading the chain. So in both the cases, your body is not only lifting or unloading in a one particular straight posture. So your body is twisted as well. Sometimes you have to stoop. Sometimes you have to take the squat posture. So these stoop posture is nothing but the posture which is like this. This is your stoop posture, and squat posture is something like this. This is a squat posture. So sometimes to save your back, you prefer squat posture instead of stoop posture. But it is not always the case, because it is also exerting the load on the knees. So squat posture gives pressure on the knees, and stoop posture puts pressure on the back. Sometimes we save back, sometimes we save knees. So depending upon the situation. Now, can static work be eliminated by providing clamps or vices? Can load be, for example, if you are drilling on some item, then in that case, if drill machine is hanged in hand, or drill machine is hanged in a spring overhead, so in both the cases your load is in that case your load is reduced, because the spring is taking the load of the drill machine. So every time your hand is doing the task precisely, but not taking the much load of the machine also. So that kind of support could be provided. If the work is greater than 40% of the maximum aerobic capacity, this is maximum aerobic power is known as VO2 max, which is nothing but the maximum capacity of your lungs to inhale oxygen. Generally, it is 4 to 6 liters, but it depends upon the person how much he can inhale the maximum oxygen. So whatever level of oxygen you can inhale at most, of that, the work task must not require 40%, more than 40% of that. If you are able to inhale maximum 6 liters of oxygen, then the task requiring the oxygen inhaling must not be more than 2.5% or 2.5 liters. So that is, but using the checklist, we are not going to change anything. First, we are going to assess the human, machine, and environment system. Now, how many muscle groups are involved? It is a hammering task, then the muscle groups are different. If it is a saving task by a paddle, then the requirement is different. What are the cycle times? Job aids provided to reduce demand. So these were physical demands. Now then, mental load. We can assess in gradings how much mental load is there. If it is a plain typing, if it is a data entry, both has a different mental load. Plain typing may be corrected later on, but data correction may require a lot of time if you have to do it again. So the mental load for data entry is quite high compared to plain typing tasks. So we have to see that we have to discriminate the different types of mental load. If the task is predominantly skill-based, rule-based, or knowledge-based. Tasks may be depending upon three things. If you are doing a research work, it may require your skill and knowledge both. But if you are doing work, if you are working in the industry on the shop floor, the rules and skills are important. So, so depending upon the situation, one of the or two of the three or all of the three may be required. Does the task place high demands on perceptual or attentional system? How much information we process before response can be made? So depending upon the alarming system, what is the signal to noise ratio? What system do you require for closing, opening of one particular task? Visual search can be reduced. It may be a task like you are sitting on a radar monitoring screen, then your mental workload is quite high. You have to see which kind of object is being displayed on the screen. You have to identify that. You have to see what kind of object it is, whether it is a bird or it is a missile or it is an airplane or it is any UFO, whatever it is. So the mental task, depending upon the situation, is quite different. Then sixth is human machine interaction, which is a main or we can say the core area in ergonomics. Human machine interaction. Humans are processing by brain, sensing and response giving. Machine is giving you displays and controls over it. So displays and controls are being linked with sense and response of the human. So that is what is called as human machine interaction. Now, when we are assessing through Grandjean rules of checklist, we have these 19 points under human machine interaction, like information presented satisfy the operator's requirement, rate of information flow too high or too low, information does the operator use for work, data readily available in right form or ambiguous form, data embedded in noise or not, how much signal to noise ratio. There are many distractions due to noise, speech, or other disturbances. Layout of the controls and displays compatible with the prevailing stereotype. For example, you are turning the steering on the left, then your car should turn to the left. This is the simplest example. But if this design is not compatible, if you're rotating clockwise your car handle, then your uh, door glass should go up. If you are rotating counterclockwise, it should go down because we are tuned to that particular kind of uh, action and our sense and response system. Otherwise, we would make a mistake. If red button is for keeping a machine on, we will make a mistake. So these are the things which are important for increasing the what is called as compatibility of man machine human machine system. Are controls close to corresponding displays? Are controls ratios and dynamic compatibility with the system? Sometimes controls and displays may have dynamic compatibility, may have a static compatibility. For example, keyboards is is a horizontal is a uh, keys are arranged in a horizontal rows or keys are arranged in a vertical rows. And what we are typing is, if you compare the Japanese typing and if you compare the normal English typing, so we have to see what kind of compatibility we can have. If we have to see the display of the speed, and then if we are increasing the speed by knob, then clockwise should be compatible with the clockwise control or display. Does the operator have monitors several channels simultaneously? If you are monitoring one stimuli, then your response time will be different. But if you are monitoring two or three stimuli, then your monitoring time will be affected, which we call as response time. That may be uh, simple response time, sorry, simple response time or choice response time. Simple response time is the time when you have one stimuli. One light will be red, it means there is an alarm. If there is a choice, then 4, 3, 5 options are there. Then your response time or your reaction time will be affected with the number of choice, because brain and your motor nerve system will process the signal, and that will be affected because of depending upon your cognitive ability. So choice reaction time is considered when there are more than one stimuli. Simple reaction is when there is one stimuli. Stimuli is nothing but an environmental factor by which you are had to respond, or you generally give a response. Does the system provide timely feedback? Human computer dialects user friendly? Is human computer interface appropriately given the expert of users? Nowadays, graphics user interface is a very common term in web designing. Graphics user interface. It means that the website you are looking, the software you are looking, you should reach to the point of your application or your control within a very short reaction time. So controls like in AutoCAD, if you have to draw the line, you should not search many options, go to draw, then straight options, then line. You have to see simply direct a line to draw, and that line icon will help you to draw the line. So that way, we have to consider uh, the human limitations or human abilities, and we have to make them compatible with that. So graphics like background color of the web page and the text color, they must be in a contrast so that the person must not be strained to read it. Like on the medicines wrappers, sometimes you are not able to read the salt, sometimes you are not able to read the mgs. So these things have to be uh, designed in such a way that they must be compatible, they must be easy to follow. Then work environment. Work environment is not only temperature, noise, light, vibration. It may be maybe other objects in the environment appropriate to work, maybe other machines. Are relative humidity or ventilation satisfactory? Clothes, devices available for workers in extreme environments, for example, the firefighters. Their clothing is very different. Clothing of astronauts is very different. Clothing of like researchers working in oceanography is different. So these things are your part of the environment which we have to assess. But basic terms we have to be we have to consider about temperature, noise, light, vibration with respect to the recommendation limits given by different ISO standards. So we have to see ISO standards for noise, light, vibration so that we can improve the work environment. Then we have work characteristics. Work characteristics involve anthropometry of the workforce known. For example, you want to sit in a chair and having a very narrow sitting space, and the person is bulky. So the space to sit will be less. So that is dependent upon the anthropometry of the worker, of the person. Are the workers mainly male or female? It also affects the characteristics of the workstation. Language is spoken proficiently by the workers. What is the average age of the worker? Education level of the worker? It, it can not only be the workforce characteristics, it may be in some of the institutes design. If you are designing the institute there, you can consider the persons or users of the facility, or are workers literate or not literate, work suitably not nourished, or workers mainly full-time, part-time, seasonal. So these are the workforce characteristics which are important to be assessed. Job stress. Job stress may be because of the conflict with the other workers. Job stress may be because of the requirement of because of the risk of the job. Maybe with the relationship with the peers or relationships with the supervisor, depending upon the severity of the task or depending upon the appraisals, depending upon the targets. So job stress, and the last two are um, occupational background and safety. So occupational background is the work system, the result of the tradition of custom practices. Has the work been planned? Safety, you have to look about the safety in terms of possibilities of injury. Whether you are working on a, for example, worker is working on chimney. He has to go up the chimney and go down in a hanging rope or crane. Or the worker is cleaning the outer wall of a multi-story building, hanged in a trolley by ropes. So that way, safety is very important factor. Or the worker is working on a punching machine in a lock key making operation. So he puts the material over here and then take out his hand. So there are chances of injuries over there. So we have to get them trained. We have to provide proper protective equipment. We have to provide proper safety shoes, safety helmets, and like person working in the chemical industry or electroplating must wear the gloves properly. So these are safety requirements. So these are the points on which we generally assess the any task or any work going on. For example, if the person is working in cargo handling operations, loading and unloading um, specified equipments onto the ships using cranes. So ship is big, crane is big, and he is loading the items on the ship. So in that case, very precise operation is required. Crane has to place the box or precise equipment very safely over the ship in the very specific space by the crane, and the load generally rotates. So in that case, if you apply this checklist to understand by taking the interview of the worker, interview of the operators, you will find that he is having a very static posture in the crane compartment. Controls are very precise, heavy load. So longer static posture with heavy mental load because of this precise operation of lifting the the that boxes over the or those cargoes over the ship. So in that case, the worker may demand more leave, more absenteeism, and he may go for a kind of requiring a treatment after a short while. The workers who are working on rigs, oil drawing rigs offshore. So if you talk to them, they are doing a task in a very heavy loads because they are drilling wells and then they have to monitor the taking out of the pipes and placing the pipes in it. And in those cases, rig is exposed to vibration. Person is standing on that, and his neck is exposed to a very uh, extreme level of what is called as extension. So in this case, extension instead of flexion, this is a flexion, this is an extension angle. So in extension, the neck is going to pain a lot. So these are operations. I'll show you videos some other day. So this was all for today. Maybe on the next run, I will discuss about what is called as task analysis. So this was primary. It may be quite boring today because it was a complete description of the checklist. But this checklist is a basis for developing any of the specific checklists. So if you have to make a specific checklist, for example, for a smithy work, you can do it. If you have to make a checklist for wood cutting work or carpentry work or for other work, then you can develop the checklist based on these things. So these are some of the important tools, important generic tools which we were discussing about here. Now the second tool we will discuss is task analysis. So task